Hey, what's going on? This is Malcolm, and I'm back with another Destiny 2 video on M3 Gaming. I am playing again with this exotic that I just got a few days ago, the Mothkeeper's Wraps. So it converts your grenade into a, I don't know, a moth. These moths have been in the game since Shadowkeep. I think that was about 3, 4 years ago, and they've been associated with the Hive. Makes sense that it came out this season. It's a Hive themed season. In the game, especially when Sabathun's Throne World came out, Sabathun basically revealed herself as like a giant moth. So I don't know what the connection is there in the lore. I used to really follow the lore, no. But they've been in the game for a minute. So like one of the things that you do a lot of times with the Hive are busting these crystals, and they were purple, but I never associated them with void light, but that's exactly what they are. And surrounding those crystals used to be these little moths. If I have the Scarlet Keep as a strike, I could show it to you. You would bust those crystals in Crown of Sorrow, the raid, and they include that also in the Altars of Summoning this season. So, anyhow, yeah, it's Grenadier today. So I'm these Mothkeeper wraps turn your grenade into a a moth grenade. Basically, you throw it. It's like a cage. There are two moths in it. It depends on whether there are allies or enemies nearby as to which you get. You can get a void moth or an arc moth, or you can get two of each. Two of one or the other. Uh, I typically toss it near my feet if I want to get some void moths because they come to you and allies and give you half an overshield. I don't know how powerful the overshield is, but just any overshield in this game is pretty good, especially considering how fast you get your how fast you get your grenade back. I'm not sure why it gets refreshed so quickly when it's just a moth. See, like I got a full overshield right there, and my grenade's back already. Like I don't understand that. Yeah, super fast and simple. Um, I like playing support in these types of bills. I think like manipulating the behavior of other people is just inherently fun, especially when it helps your whole team out and the other person thinks they're the badass. And the truth is that you're the one who empowered them to be super badass. So right here, these exploders will just murder us. But I can give him an overshield and let him do all the killing for me. Actually, I don't even know what my heavy should be on. I think it's supposed to be sword. You telling me I don't have a sword on this character? I always have a sword. But yeah, I think I would do a little commentary on what I am going to talk about on Wednesday. So if you don't know, I have been doing live streams now for about 10 years. Crazy. And the evolution of it was always just about having interesting conversations with people. Um, I liked, I do still like social media, the communal aspect of like seeing what is on people's minds, but I think just sometimes there is like a lack of substance in a lot of those conversations. It's like monitoring each other's behaviors in weird ways. Um, I don't mind it so much as I used to, as I actually participate in those conversations. In fact, I started to realize like the most interesting conversations on the live stream have to do with an answer that requires a personal story. Like that's really where it gets interesting, where you can say there's a certain way that you should do things, but then you can offer your experience as a proof of concept or counterpoint. Either way, it's just far more interesting than ooh. Oh man, I need that super kills at this base of the steps. It's gonna be a bunch of enemies. Come on. We're getting there way too fast. I'll have to wait till the boss room, I guess. Maybe try to do it in that first room. No, I have to do it on the next round, but like, yeah, he still had a super. Hey, I got some super kills. I'm using my moths now to empower them since they want to be so aggressive. I think that's so cool.
The score has been dealt with moment. Never cease to amaze, you know? Thanks for the hard work.
All right, so give them their commendations. Check the stats. And check my bounties. So yeah, I got the submachine gun. Bounties done. Okay. Advanced trace rifle, scout rifle, sword, sniper. Okay, so scout rifle. Trace rifle. All right, so on this, I think I'm gonna go scavenge here. I'm gonna leave it.
Guardian. We've received intel that Bracus Zahn is supplying weapons to the Shadow Legion.
My scions have already attempted their onslaught of Zahn's base, but I miscalculated the strength of this operation.
You miscalculated?
Yes. Do you have further questions?
Right. Let's get them free. It seems this new Zahn has done some redecorating. Though I don't think I can call this an upgrade in terms of taste, but perhaps the cannons could be of use. Earlier, I informed the Empress we had already dealt with Zahn, or at least I thought we had. But he's returned somehow.
Names hold power. It is not unlikely this new Zahn is a successor who has taken up the mantle.
Regardless, he must be stopped.
Thank you, Guardian. I've instructed the scions to aid you. Free the others, and you will have a formidable
I think I got my
team
sword
to face
in.
Bracus Zahn.
We'll take all the help we can get.
Really need to finish this trace rifle, but it's not really good against the shielded enemies. But yeah, there are going to be plenty coming up here. This version of Arms Dealer has a lot more enemies in it than the previous version did. Yay, I got my super kills. I think I got my trace rifle as well. I'll check later. So I think I can work on scout, and this is a good place.
Shield is making me mad. Let's get rid of it.
Well fought, Guardian. We've cut another head off the proverbial Hydra.
Hydra have but one head, Deborah.
Yes, Vex Hydra do. There's an old
All
man
right,
with
that was a pretty good run.
Never mind.
You would would do well to leave your hide site to better understand our enemies.
I'll do that.
All right. Check the stats. Yeah. Check my bounties. Got the trace rifle and sword. Fairly close to the scout. I'm gonna finish that scout. Hold up. I can get some more bounties. Ugh. So I'm not going to do that sniper bounty. That's ridiculous. All right. I'm going to listen to a little bit of my book.
You'll never fit the bigger things in at all. Here the story ends, but it's a lie. The smug teacher is being dishonest. He has rigged his demonstration by bringing only a few big rocks into the classroom, knowing they'll all fit into the jar. The real problem of time management today, though, isn't that we're bad at prioritizing the big rocks. It's that there are too many rocks, and most of them are never making it anywhere near that jar. The critical question isn't how to differentiate between activities that matter and those that don't, but what to do when far too many things feel at least somewhat important, and therefore arguably qualify as big rocks. Fortunately, a handful of wiser minds have addressed exactly this dilemma, and their counsel coalesces around three main principles. The art of creative neglect. Principle number one is to pay yourself first when it comes to time. I'm borrowing this phrasing from the graphic novelist and creativity coach Jessica Abel, who borrowed it in turn from the world of personal finance, where it's long been an article of faith because it works. If you take a portion of your paycheck the day you receive it and squirrel it away into savings or investments, or use it for paying off debts, you'll probably never feel the absence of that cash. You'll go about your business, buying your groceries, paying your bills, precisely as if you'd never had that portion of money to begin with. There are limits, of course. This plan won't work if you literally earn only enough to survive.
Right.
But if, like most people, you pay yourself last instead, buying what you need and hoping there'll be some money remaining at the end to put into savings, you'll usually find that there isn't any. And this won't necessarily be because you frittered it away self-indulgently on lattes or pedicures or new electronic gadgets or heroin. Every expenditure might have felt eminently sensible and necessary in the moment that you made it. The trouble is that we're terrible at long-range planning. If something feels like a priority now, it's virtually impossible to coolly assess whether it will still feel that way in a week or a month. And so we naturally err on the side of spending, then feel bad later when there's nothing left over to save. The same logic, Abel points out, applies to time. If you try to find time for your most valued activities by first dealing with all the other important demands on your time, in the hope that there'll be some left over at the end, you'll be disappointed. So if a certain activity really matters to you, a creative project, say, though it could just as easily be nurturing a relationship or activism in the service of some cause, the only way to be sure it will happen is to do some of it today, no matter how little, and no matter how many other genuinely big rocks may be begging for your attention. After years of trying and failing to make time for her illustration work by taming her to-do list and shuffling her schedule, Abel saw that her only viable option was to claim time instead, to just start drawing for an hour or two every day, and to accept the consequences, even if those included neglecting other activities she sincerely valued. If you don't save a bit of your time for you, now, out of every week, as she puts it, there is no moment in the future when you'll magically be done with everything and have loads of free time. This is the same insight embodied in two venerable pieces of time management advice: to work on your most important project for the first hour of each day, and to protect your time by scheduling meetings with yourself, marking them in your calendar so that other commitments can't intrude. Thinking in terms of paying yourself first transforms these one-off tips into a philosophy of life, at the core of which lies this simple insight: if you plan to spend some of your 4,000 weeks doing what matters most to you, then at some point, you're just going to have to start doing it. The second principle is to limit your work in progress. Perhaps the most appealing way to resist the truth about your finite time is to initiate a large number of projects at once. That way, you get to feel as though you're keeping plenty of irons in the fire and making progress on all fronts. Instead, what usually ends up happening is that you make progress on no fronts, because each time a project starts to feel difficult or frightening or boring, you can bounce off to a different one instead.
Right.
You get to preserve your sense of being in control of things, but at the cost of never finishing anything important. The alternative approach is to fix a hard upper limit on
I'm
the
about
number
to
of
level
things
up.
that you allow yourself to work on at any given time. In their book, Personal Kanban, which explores this strategy in detail, the management experts Jim Benson and Tony Ann DeMaria Barry suggest no more than 3 items. Once you've selected those tasks, all other incoming demands on your time must wait until one of the 3 items has been completed, thereby freeing up a slot. It's also permissible to free up a slot by abandoning a project altogether if it isn't working out. The point isn't to force yourself to finish absolutely everything you start, but rather to banish the bad habit of keeping an ever-proliferating number of half-finished projects on the back burner. Making this rather modest change to my working practices produced a startlingly large effect. It was no longer possible for me to ignore the fact that my capacity for work was strictly finite, because each time I selected a new task from my to-do list as one of my 3 work-in-progress items, I was obliged to contemplate all those I'd inevitably be neglecting in order to focus on it.
Got
And
the
yet,
same ones again.
precisely because I was being forced to confront reality in this way, to see that I was always neglecting most tasks in order to work on anything at all, and that working on everything at once simply wasn't an option, the result was a powerful sense of undistracted calm and a lot more productivity than in my days as a productivity obsessive. Another happy consequence was that I found myself effortlessly breaking down my projects into manageable chunks, a strategy I'd long agreed with in theory but never properly implemented. Now, it became the intuitive thing to do. It was clear that if I nominated write book or move house as one of my 3 tasks in progress, it would clog up the system for months. So I was naturally motivated to figure out the next achievable step in each case instead. Rather than trying to do everything, I found it easier to accept the truth that I'd be doing only a few things on any given day. The difference, this time, was that I actually did them. The third principle is to resist the allure of middling priorities. There is a story attributed to Warren Buffett, although probably only in the apocryphal way in which wise insights get attributed to Albert Einstein or the Buddha, regardless of their real source, in which the famously shrewd investor is asked by his personal pilot about how to set priorities. I'd be tempted to respond, just focus on flying the plane. But apparently this didn't take place mid-flight, because Buffett's advice is different. He tells the man to make a list of the top 25 things he wants out of life, and then to arrange them in order, from the most important to the least. The top 5, Buffett says, should be those around which he organizes his time. But contrary to what the pilot might have been expecting to hear, the remaining 20, Buffett allegedly explains, aren't the second-tier priorities to which he should turn when he gets the chance. Far from it. In fact, they're the ones he should actively avoid at all costs, because they're the ambitions insufficiently important to him to form the core of his life, yet seductive enough to distract him from the ones that matter most. You needn't embrace the specific practice of listing out your goals, I don't personally, to appreciate the underlying point, which is that in a world of too many big rocks, it's the moderately appealing ones, the fairly interesting job opportunity, the semi-enjoyable friendship, on which a finite life can come to grief. It's a self-help cliche that most of us need to get better at learning to say no, but as the writer Elizabeth Gilbert points out, it's all too easy to assume that this merely entails finding the courage to decline various tedious things you never wanted to do in the first place. In fact, she explains, it's much harder than that. You need to learn how to start saying no to things you do want to do, with the recognition that you have only one life. Perfection and paralysis. If skillful time management is best understood as a matter of learning to procrastinate well, by facing the truth about your finitude and making your choices accordingly, then the other kind of procrastination, the bad kind, which prevents us from making progress on the work that matters to us, is usually the result of trying to avoid that truth. The good procrastinator accepts the fact that she can't get everything done, then decides as wisely as possible what tasks to focus on and what to neglect. By contrast, the bad procrastinator finds himself paralyzed precisely because he can't bear the thought of confronting his limitations. For him, procrastination is a strategy of emotional avoidance, a way of trying not to feel the psychological distress that comes with acknowledging that he's a finite human being. The limitations we're trying to avoid when we engage in this self-defeating sort of procrastination frequently don't have anything to do with how much we'll be able to get done in the time available. Usually, it's a matter of worrying that we won't have the talent to produce work of sufficient quality, or that others won't respond to it as we'd like them to, or that in some other way, things won't turn out as we want. The philosopher Kostika Bradatan illustrates the point by means of a fable about an architect from Shiraz in Persia who designed the world's most beautiful mosque, a breathtaking structure, dazzlingly original yet classically well-proportioned, awe-inspiring in its grandeur yet wholly unpretentious. All those who saw the architectural plans wanted to buy them or steal them. Famous builders begged him to let them take on the job. But the architect locked himself in his study and stared at the plans for 3 days and nights, then burned them all. He might have been a genius, but he was also a perfectionist. The mosque of his imagination was perfect, and it agonized him to contemplate the compromises that would be involved in making it real. Even the greatest of builders would inevitably fail to reproduce his plans absolutely faithfully. Nor would he be able to protect his creation from the ravages of time, from the physical decay or marauding armies that would eventually reduce it to dust. Stepping into the world of finitude by actually building the mosque would mean confronting all that he couldn't do. Better to cherish an ideal fantasy than to resign himself to reality, with all its limitations and unpredictability. Bradatan argues that when we find ourselves procrastinating on something important to us, we're usually in some version of this same mindset. We fail to see, or refuse to accept, that any attempt to bring our ideas into concrete reality must inevitably fall short of our dreams, no matter how brilliantly we succeed in carrying things off. Because reality, unlike fantasy, is a realm in which we don't have limitless control and can't possibly hope to meet our perfectionist standards. Something, our limited talents, our limited time, our limited control over events and over the actions of other people, will always render our creation less than perfect. Dispiriting as this might sound at first, it contains a liberating message. If you're procrastinating on something because you're worried you won't do a good enough job, you can relax. Because judged by the flawless standards of your imagination, you definitely won't do a good enough job. So you might as well make a start. And this sort of finitude-avoiding procrastination certainly isn't confined to the world of work. It's a major issue in relationships, too, where a similar refusal to face the truth about finitude can keep people mired in a miserably tentative mode of existence for years on end. By way of a cautionary tale, consider the case of the worst boyfriend ever, Franz Kafka, whose most important romantic liaison began one summer evening in Prague in 1912 when he was 29. Dining that night at the home of his friend Max Brod, Kafka met his host's cousin, Felice Bauer, who was visiting from Berlin. She was an independent-minded 24-year-old, already enjoying professional success at a manufacturing company in Germany, and her down-to-earth vigor appealed to the neurotic, self-conscious Kafka. We know little of the strength of feeling in the other direction, since only Kafka's account survives, but he was smitten, and soon a relationship began. Or it began, at least, in correspondence form. Over the next 5 years, the couple exchanged hundreds of letters, yet met only a handful of times, each meeting apparently a source of agony for Kafka. 7 months after their first encounter, he finally agreed to meet a second time, but sent a telegram on the morning in question to say he wasn't coming. Then he showed up anyway, but acted morose. When the couple eventually got engaged, Bauer's parents held a celebratory reception. But attending it, Kafka confided to his diary, made him feel tied hand and foot like a criminal. Shortly afterward, during a rendezvous at a Berlin hotel, Kafka called off the engagement. But the letters continued. Though Kafka was indecisive about those too. "It is quite right that we should stop this business of so many letters," he wrote to Bauer on one occasion, apparently in response to a suggestion of hers. "Yesterday, I even started a letter on this subject, which I will send tomorrow." 2 years later, the engagement was back on, but only for a while. In 1917, Kafka used the onset of tuberculosis as an excuse to cancel it a second and final time. It was presumably with some relief that Bauer married a banker, had 2 children, and moved to the United States, where she opened a successful
Okay, I think this is ironic. I'm running the moth
You said
exotic.
This is a temple to Oryx?
This is where the moths are really annoying in the game, in the swamp.
Now be careful here. What happened to this place? It's overgrown with darkness.
I can sense light here, but I just can't see it. Maybe there's a safe path through.
I like this Titan's outfit. It's pretty cool. I like those wings. Came from the Vex theme season. I can't remember. This is such a cool exotic. Like I can just, it's very hunter, because you can do the same thing with Invis, but now it's like overshield, which serves way better because they can shoot while they have an overshield.
Looks like we're all clear.
Versus Invis, you know, you lose.
Careful. The knight guarding this place? He's an old rival of Oryx, and he's no joke. Pretty funny that Savathun has him guarding Oryx's temple.
Yeah, and this exotic is so fucking powerful. It's crazy. This dude has Banner of War on. I could keep him overshielded while he swords down everything. Excuse me. Oh fuck, that's a. Excuse me. Shit, I'm glad he died right then because that was kind of vulnerable right there. That was pretty tight though. Yeah, I can't wait. It would be great if I actually had someone to play this with and actually paired that with someone who was on mic with me. But I don't really have the kind of friend list really online. Let me see. Just to fuck around, like people who I play with, or I used to play with, played with such purpose, you know, that you didn't just get to fuck around and have fun. Hand cannon. Let's see. All right, I'm gonna take a quick break. All right, I'm back. And I did not grab any bounties, did I? I don't think I did. I was going to. But I still have this trace rifle and this hand cannon bounty to do.
We
So
picked up a high gain transmission. Origin point is somewhere along the coast, near the Cosmodrome.
and I just have a few minutes left before I have to
That's
go.
Rasputin, the AI war mind.
So this will be my
If
last
I'm
strike.
understanding him correctly, it's a distress call.
I
There are
probably
so
won't
few
get the
valet
hand
fans
cannon
left,
bounty
though.
done.
It'd be a shame to lose him.
This thing does not have very good perks. I don't even know. Loose change and collective action. I'm not even sure.
One can't afford another Omnigoon situation.
Those are both new perks, and they're not that great.
Rasputin. A threat to the war mind is a threat to the city as well.
Now, I just thought of it would be hot if Overshield from the Moth gave you a bonus damage. I don't think that's how that works. You have to collect one of the void slivers, whatever that is. I like the way this sounds and looks. Don't get me wrong.
Sorry this is taking so long, but these sequences are incredibly complex. Plus, I'm actually not that great at math, so...
try to get the trace rifle. There's not enough enemies in this strike to really finish my bounties, but this build is still amazing. I'm gonna hate it when Grenadier's off, but I wish I could give over shields. That would be so tight. What over shields?
Anyone with a radio could have picked up Rasputin's distress call. If we don't shut it down, half the Cosmodrome could be at his front door.
I can try to override his system locks, but Rasputin's reaction to attack might be extreme. Must be something by his systems.
All right, I got the trace rifle.
It worked. Maybe too well. This arc energy is coming from the depths of Rasputin's power grid. It's similar to what we use to power the city, but its drift velocity is totally different than ours. Fascinating. Genuinely worried. I think they're trying to bypass his database and gain direct control of the warsats. That would be bad.
Высокий приоритет мобильному.
That shank's been modified to crack his system. Let's take it out. You know, they probably built that thing out of scrap from concrete. It's lucky that it managed to work as well as it did. Maybe it was the size. It was pretty big for a shank. Would I be more useful with a larger chassis?
Yes. In any case, Guardian, that was impressive work. The skies will remain free of weapons for the time being.
All right. Well, on that note, it is time for me to get my day started. I really appreciate anyone who's following me on the socials. Make sure to follow the main Male Media Mind page on YouTube. I have a live coming up Wednesday. You can go to youtube.com/Male Media Mind and click the bell to get notifications. I have one on Wednesdays at 7. Greg has one Saturdays at noon, and Devon has one on Sundays at 5. Appreciate you for tuning in. I will catch you on the next time Grenadier is active. I don't know. I hope it's lightning crystals. That would be awesome. I haven't done the little loader pants. Or even I could do this exotic on Arc Hunter. That'd be kind of cool. All right. On that note, I am out.